Now we're going to see some good old lib meltdowns from MSNBC. First up, here's Joy Reid setting the expectation for the night because everybody knew Trump was going to win. And here's Joy Reid saying, now just remember, everybody, don't expect a good result because the people in Iowa are white Christians.
You know, I feel like the important sort of data point, and you know, Steve talks about it a lot. He's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight. Is that these are white Christians? That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones, from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper evangelical white state.
Is that actually
and
Louis
he said the following to me: Iowa is about 6.
Who?
Louis Anderson. I think that's Louis Anderson's haircut.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember the show you're talking about.
It was very funny.
61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following, because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following. They see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them.
Is that what this scholar of white religious America told you? Is that what he told you? So this is based on what he told you. Because what I think he gave evangelicals was the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is something they had wanted for 50 years. Well, I mean, I'm not a scholar. I'm just a schmuck with a YouTube show. So maybe this scholar from some institute, I forget what the fuck it was.
Just a schmuck with a schmata.
Exactly. Just a schmuck with a schmata here. Maybe he knows better than me.
Well,
but,
you know, we got to...
I think that really won their hearts, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a 50-year project completed not under Trump, but because of the 3 justices that Trump was able to put onto that court. One of them at the last minute. So that's my guess, what they got out of it.
That's my favorite. Speaking of nicknames, that's probably my favorite one that you've ever come up with. Amy Pancakes.
Amy Pancakes?
The Amy Pancakes one is one of my favorites.
Yes.
So Joy Reid taking a break from being on the right side of history with Israel.
Right.
Back to her old race hustling tricks or race baiting tricks. This is something, you know, we could talk to Ellen about this at some point, but what I get from actually listening to evangelicals and not some asshole that spoke to you in a hallway for 5 minutes that you decided to build your entire segment around. You know, Christianity has built into it the idea that we're all flawed sinners, right? It's based on this book of mythology that is very centered on the idea that everyone falls short of the glory of God, that everyone is imperfect, that everyone is a sinner. Even Moses doesn't get to enter into the promised land, right? Because he has failed God fundamentally. So the idea that God has chosen Donald Trump to work his will, and who are we to question his messenger? We are all sinners in the eyes of God. We are all imperfect vessels. I think that's at the bottom of it. I think that's why they don't really care. I don't think evangelicals look at Donald Trump and see him as a holy person or see him as somebody who shares their values. I think they see it as the Lord works in mysterious ways, and for whatever reason, the Lord has outlawed abortion through this imperfect vessel of Donald Trump. It's consistent with their theology. Like the fact that he's a sinner, that's not a deal breaker. Why would it be?
And also, yes, I mean, all that's true. It makes total sense that would not be a deal breaker in their eyes. But, you know, I mean, since Reagan and especially since George Bush and Karl Rove really activated the Christian right like never before in 2004, These evangelicals can be quite Machiavellian. Like, they want power. They understand that they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their worship here on earth unless they actually win power. Right. And when they're organized, they can be tough to beat. But I just love how she centers this point around this guy whose opinion she asked. Oh, let me ask a friend of mine at some liberal think tank what he thinks of the evangelicals, and I'll cite this as a source so that it sounds to my audience like I know what I'm talking about. Like, I can speak for evangelical Christians as a whole, even though the point of this is to badmouth
people
them.
Are saying.
Right,
meaning,
people are saying.
Meaning people who would be in the same room with me are saying.
Right, yeah, exactly.
People I would know are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about the fact that election cycle by election cycle, more and more people who don't fit that identity category are swinging towards Donald Trump? How do you explain the fact that, he's running about even with Latinos now? He already in 2020 did better with African Americans than anyone since Nixon. Right. So how do you explain, if that's the whole appeal, how do you explain the inroads that he's making with those communities? They so desperately want to make everything about race in order to avoid a discussion of their own failures in regards to policy and delivering for the American people. Their whole Keynesian economics have failed because they were never able to deliver them.
Yeah, and if you look here, Trump did pretty much the same amongst non-white evangelical Christians as he did amongst white evangelical Christians, right? I mean, he did pretty much the same amongst both groups. And while the evangelicals do make up a significant percentage of the Iowa population, they were the majority of voters in this caucus. They were not the vast majority of voters in this caucus. They made up 55%. Of the voters. And Donald Trump did pretty much just as well amongst them as he did amongst other groups.
This is for people who would be sitting there watching the fucking spike in the head, for me personally, that is MSNBC. This is their Monarchian story that they like. That is the favorite story of humanity. Look at the top 10 movies. They are all these Monarchian good versus evil, very simple fairy tale like stories. Star Wars, Avatar. It's very good. It's very bad. Their central mythology is evil, white, heteronormative, cisgendered Christians are their only real issue with the direction the country is taking is racial animus and homophobia and sexism. That's the only complaint they have, the fear that they're losing their prominence. And they only vote on that basis. That's the core Star Wars. That's the Force for these people, right? That's the core dark side of the Force, right? And all of the people who have a D next to their name are the forces of light fighting to move society forward away from these evil white Christian people. And that's it. That's their favorite story. That's their Avatar. That's their Star Wars. That's their Harry Potter. And they tune in to MSNBC to hear that story told again and again and again and again with a different cast of characters and some of your old favorites.
Please clap.